and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and will faithfully,
honestly,
and
impartially
discharge the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Board of Zoning Appeals member
of the Zoning Board Appeals member
in the Village of South Russell,
in the Village of South Russell,
in Geauga County, Ohio.
in Geauga County, Ohio.
Congratulations.
Pay your dues at the door.
I feel like I did that up. Thank you. It's a good day, it's my son's birthday.
We have to work with
All right, talk amongst yourselves. We've got a minute and a half.
Stay tuned.
We don't get time.
Great. Okay, we're well. He's been kind of working. Yep.
Do we have all the technology working? I know our mayor is the technology expert, and said this morning, but I figured we'd like
From this morning, I also found somebody better.
we've traded up, is that what you're saying? Nice. All right, well, it says 7 o'clock on the big clock back there, so we'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with roll. Can you take roll, please?
Andy Hitchcock,
Here?
Michael Lloyd,
Here.
John Boda,
Here.
Martin O'Toole, Cindy Matavia. Here.
All right. Next thing on our agenda is the approval of minutes from our last meeting, which was on April 20th. At least 4 of us were here. Have all of you had a chance to review minutes? Any comments, changes, alterations? No. I would make a motion to approve the minutes from April 20th.
Second.
We give a vote, please.
Andy Hitchcock,
Yes?
Michael Lloyd,
Yes.
John Boda,
Yes.
Martin O'Toole,
Yes.
Cindy Matavia.
Yes.
All right. So we have one item on our agenda today. It's actually a property we saw a few months ago, different things, but we'll revisit that. Before we have our applicants present us a case, we would like to swear in anyone who would like to provide testimony today. So if anyone here is planning to speak on behalf of or against the motion, could you please raise your right hand and swear them in?
Are you speaking this evening?
I might as well.
I don't even know what's Sure. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Wonderful. So, Wendy and Mark?
Yes.
Awesome. Could you present a little bit about what you're trying to accomplish and just give us some background on why we're here today?
Okay, I'll try and make it, as succinct as possible. We had purchased the property at 807 Bell Road after almost a year of looking in the area. We had a son that lives in South Russell and a son who lives in Chagrin Falls, so we'd like to be close to them. We had purchased this home with the idea of putting on an addition. So the home was about 1,000 square feet, and we had hoped to add maybe another 1,000 square feet. We met with at least 4 different builders. Probably you're familiar with Payne and Payne, Otero, Alexandra, and then finally Allaire. 3 of those, one didn't want to talk to us. He just wanted to tear the house down and start building. The 2 others, Payne and Otero, at least entertained the idea of putting an addition on the home. but also suggested maybe to consider to start over. And then lastly, Alaire had said, yeah, we can do that. So we worked with them for about 8 months. Unfortunately, it proved to be quite cost prohibitive to put an addition onto the home. And as we were looking prior to the purchase of 807, we were meeting with Schumacher Homes and looking for a property in the area. Most of the properties we found were larger as we're getting older in years, looking for a smaller property, easier to maintain. So we love the location. It's almost smack dab in the middle between our two sons. We love the area, it's a Holscher Falls area. We're in Aurora now, so we'll just be closer to our sons. And so we came to the conclusion after our last budgetary meeting with Alaire that it simply wasn't going to work. So we've gone back to Schumacher Homes and looked at a home there that we decided on will suit our needs. But it does involve tearing down the existing structure and then building the new home.
Anything else at this point?
I don't think so, unless there's some specific questions that we might address.
Yeah, some board probably have some questions for you, so you're welcome to share. Obviously respond to, but share other thoughts throughout the conversation. John, would you like to get us started?
I have no questions at this time.
Martin?
And just to be clear, even though this is a variance, you're actually requesting to build it on essentially the footprint of the home that's there. Is that right?
It's very close.
Very
to
close.
something different. It's a little bit, the home now sits a little bit more to the east side of the property, and now the home is centered on the property. That's essentially what it comes down.
For the key dimension on the table here, the setback from the street, it's a variance, but in fact, the application's already there. Okay, so I make sure I understood that right. Thank you.
Other questions, Martin?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mike?
Not yet, doing matters.
Okay. Sid?
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay. I've got a couple questions. One, I understand you're adjoining two parcels of land. Has that occurred, or is that to happen in the future?
I think it's in the process.
It is, I talked to the surveyor, Mr. Yudowski, and he's going to join properties.
Okay. And do we anticipate any issues with that? I mean, you own both parcels,
Yes.
correct? All right. I believe you're the neighbor.
Yes.
Is there any, we passed through the microphone. So we notify all the neighbors. Can you introduce yourself, just let us know where you are relative to the property?
I'm Jerry Byrne, and I live on the corner of Bell and Laurel. They're 807 Bell, so I'm at the little white house, if anybody knows. We've been there, 30 years, since 1984. I remember that. So we've had a lot of stuff that we put up, plants and things like that. Our only concern is that they stay within the property lines. Don't think, as long as they have enough room, but we don't want them coming over our property. And there's some trees that we have up there, marked which ones are ours. They're right on the line, because we have no shade. Considering trees from that property have fallen, they've broken our shed and done other things because it's been not been up very well over the rental years that we've been there. So, other than that, but that's our big thing, is to make sure that you stay within the lines that you are. Because my husband says that the lines are long, but.
So as I remember,
Very, very small,
right. If I remember correctly, a similar concern to what you expressed last time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I really didn't know, we just got this letter and it said new house. So I just wanted to find out if that's what they were going to do, knock everything down,
Right.
a lot of construction and all that. Are you having a basement put in? because I think there's no basement in that house.
There's a problem.
Oh, is it? We're right on the ground, that's why I just assumed everybody was. But, yeah, that's our only concern.
Okay, appreciate that. I think everyone here has visited the property at some point over the past couple of months. Just as I'm visualizing it, I think there are a couple of trees out front. What are you going to do to the property? Something knock down the house plus existing landscaping on the property, or are you gonna try and save stuff?
Well, yeah, no, we would like, there's definitely, some of the trees and plants that we want to preserve. And obviously, we would want to be, the builders, to be respectful of the neighbors and the neighbors' properties. There are some trees that have been previously identified in the backyard as being potentially problematic in terms of their leaning and potential risk of falling on the house. So we were told those would come down. Also, there's a tree on the east side of the property that's very close to the house now that we were told that we would need to come down. But other than that, I think we'd like to preserve a lot of the trees in the front yard. We love the
It's a magnolia.
magnolia.
Yes.
It's beautiful. We'd like to preserve it if at all possible.
The only problem with that is every year it comes and frost comes. And I sit there and watch all the branches. It's beautiful today, it's where I live.
There's also 2 holly trees on the property line, and we were told that that's very unusual to see a holly tree.
Oh,
So
really?
we definitely
Wanna
want to
keep-
keep
yeah.
those there.
Also, the water issue, we had, years ago, they used to have water rush down the street and go through the property, so just be sure you have that checked out. Because the next door neighbor had to go through the basement and then through the garage. And a lot of people around the area have altered it by filling in natural runoffs, so. They fixed most of it, but there has been water laying in the backyard.
In the builder's initial assessment, and it was, I think, pretty superficial, but nevertheless, identifying some of the drainage issues and said that they would address it.
That's
So
right.
We just don't want it
Permanent.
in our yard.
Yeah, well,
Couldn't
they,
agree more.
yeah, they say it comes basically from Laurel down, so
It's all from a little
wherever, yeah.
from Bell, they didn't do the ditching right, and then it came down. And when they did floral, they took out all our front, what is it, topsoil, and put gravel and that type of thing. And so it looks terrible for a while, then once the grass comes back, it's fine. But, yeah, just making sure that we don't get all, I don't want to be underwater, because we've had water around the house from drainage. Just be careful.
Yes.
So there are a handful of factors that, we are obligated to consider, impact to the property, impact to the neighbors, and things like that. One of them that kind of jumped out at me, I'd love to hear your perspective, certainly as it relates to the property being close to the street. Why not move the property back? So rather than get a 25-foot variance for the front, can you push it back 25 feet?
I think we were going for a 60-foot variance to have it go, the main house 60 foot back and the garage start at the 50 feet.
So the garage sits 10, the door for the garage is like 10 foot in front of it. So the house would be 60 foot. I think our thought was in terms of looking at the neighborhood as it exists now. I mean, the homes are all lined up kind of at that same point. So I don't think it matters to us too much if it doesn't matter to you, that we set that back a little farther. We've discussed it, and there's enough room in the back that we can do that. I think it was more trying to preserve the line of homes. From our perspective, sitting back a little bit further from the street is probably not a bad thing. I mean, in terms of traffic noise, et cetera. So we would be opposed to that. I think it was more, we were looking at the consideration with all the other houses lined up at that 50-foot mark. Would we might want to be the ones that are set back a little further It was just a look of the neighborhood.
I would guess that it would be less costly to build it on the same footprint in terms of moving utilities and things like that. Is that also a factor in your thinking or not?
It wasn't a factor in our thinking in making that consideration.
Yeah, I guess as we, if this were to be approved, we would likely approve it subject to being no closer than 50, I think it's 50.4 feet to the street.
Yes.
So should you choose to move it backwards, you would be okay doing that.
Okay.
But to your comment about trying to be consistent with the neighborhood and other frontage, that certainly makes sense. John?
That's a very thoughtful consideration as far as the appearance with the neighbors. I do believe in the February request, there was concern about the amount of space in the backyard. So I was attributing the distance to the street to try to preserve as much space. There was a comment about family gatherings and design.
Yeah, but I think in terms of the 10 feet or something like that, I think there's really, the backyard's big enough it's not an issue for us, either way.
And really, our children have taken over the holidays and all that, so.
We don't have walkers yet, but I think our kids think we're getting there.
Right. Does anyone have other comments or questions from the board?
I do.
Go ahead, Sam.
Are you planning on putting a fence up around it or at any point in time?
Yeah, there's currently a fence up that's truthfully an eyesore. It's a falling down fence. Yeah, we would like to put up some kind of privacy fence. In the backyard, I guess, again, would be largely for family cookouts or gatherings, just for privacy.
I could see that since that shed or whatever, a garage right on your
Abuts the
property.
property, yeah.
Anything else?
Okay.
Anything else from the audience? All right. Well, we have two separate requests in front of us. We'll vote on those separately, just to make sure that they are viewed separately. So I will make a motion to approve an area variance at 807 Bell Road for a front yard setback to be no closer than 50.4 feet from the street, subject to two parcels being successfully joined together. So this would take effect once those two are joined. Can I get a second on the motion?
Okay.
Is there any discussion or questions on the motion? And just to be clear, once those two parcels are joined, the existing variance that you received in February will disappear. So that goes away once that parcel, as you know it now, goes away. So if we're clear on the motion, we take roll, please.
Andy Chop,
Yes?
Michael Lloyd,
Yes.
John Buda,
Yes.
Martin McDowell,
Yes.
Cindy Kazita. Yes.
Wonderful. So for the second request, I would make a motion to approve an area variance for the side yards at 807 Bell Road to be no more, to be no more than 14.75 feet. That's it. No, that's a little less than. Thank you. It's been a long day.
All right. The variance is no.
Yes. Yes. So I will make a variance. So let me start that over. I will make a motion to approve an area variance at 807 Bell Road for a side yard on each side of the house with a variance of no more than 14.75 feet from the current code. Did I get that one right this time? So, I'm getting a lot of heads nodding. Thank you. Subject to the same condition in the previous approval that the properties are successfully joined.
The side yard setback variance is 10.25.
All right.
So the setback variance shall not be more than 10.25.
All right, John.
Yes, sir.
John, you're coming to my rescue.
Yeah, good catch.
So John, could you repeat that? I'm going to jot it down so we get this into the record. I don't have to do this a fourth time.
That the requiring side yard setback variance of no more than 10.25 feet.
Thank you. All right, third time's the charm here. Start this over. We make a motion to approve an area variance at 807 Bell Road for side yard variance of no more than 10.25 feet in both side yard setbacks, subject to the successful adjournment of both parcels. It's much clearer. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. Are there questions or comments on this? Yes.
Just to be clear from my own understanding, currently so it couldn't be 9 feet from each side yard. We're at 14 and a half or something. So it's going the other way, so I'm correct.
The variance that you're requesting can't be more than 10.25. It can't be, for example, 15, which would move you, the variance can't be 15, which would move you
towards
closer to
the
the.
property. Okay, you're good, thank you.
Yes. Any comments, questions? I don't know why I struggled with that so much. Can we get a roll call, please?
Andy Hitchcock,
Yes.
Mark Malloy,
Yes.
John Buda,
Yes.
Martin Mitchell,
Yes.
Cindy Leland. Yes.
Okay. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Good.
that was the only item on our agenda today. Do we have any old business in front of us? Mayor, Friday, Dave? Any new business?
Yes,
Mayor?
underneath your blueprints is a directory information. We're gonna be putting on a new directory. So if you could fill that out, get that in, adding Lindsay, adding Cindy, we're just trying to get everything refreshed. That's it.
Okay. It's under your. The only other thing, I guess, on new business, we'd like to welcome Lindsay Self as an alternate to the Board of Zoning Appeals. In the event that we don't have a complete coterie of 5 people, Lindsay will step in and act as a member of the board, so that way we can support village residents a little bit better in the event that we're short-staffed. So, welcome. Lindsay. Yeah, absolutely. So with that, I would call a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. Good luck. Yes. That's the whole reason we're getting a new house, is for a ranch house. We're longer than that. We're done with stairs, hopefully.
Great job. This way should be.
So, it's not going to be, you sure you've seen